Right now at 6, a final arrest in the murder of a Gresham teen killed by a stray bullet, authorities say, while he was sleeping.
We're finally on our way to getting some justice for Liam.
Plus, the ramped-up warning over a brand of infant formula after another child is diagnosed with botulism.
Then, how the bill that reopened the federal government could impact hemp farmers and brewers.
In our world, about 62% of our revenue comes from hemp-based THC.
And later, public safety work at its finest.
Let's have a seat, bud. Can we sit down?
The lengths officers went to get a child off a roof.
Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko.
And I'm Christine Pedowanich. We start with a major and sudden closure along the Oregon coast. The Port of Newport has confirmed Rogue Ales and Spirits is shutting down. The port director told us the business owes more than $500,000 on rent and taxes to the port and Lincoln County. Here's what Newport's mayor told us on KGW News at 5.
Rogue has been an incredible partner, an incredible business in our community, iconic about Newport, and a wonderful and humanity-minded business that sponsored so many nonprofits and events that we will be sadly missing them.
Big impact on a city of just 10,000 people. The Port of Newport says only 3 out of the 60 workers will stay employed, and only to help properly shut down the brewery. It also appears Rogue's pub locations there in Southeast Portland, Salem, and Astoria will be closing. We'll have much more tonight on KGW News at 11. In an update, the Trump administration plans to appeal a federal judge's decision to block National Guard troops from deploying to Portland. The feds formally filed notice this afternoon. Last week, you might remember, Judge Karen Immergut put a permanent block in place, saying the president's plan to deploy troops was unlawful. Though it appears this appeal will not be decided anytime soon. The Ninth Circuit has asked the federal government and the state of Oregon to file their briefs in the case by February and March, respectively. For now, members of the National Guard remain under federal authority but cannot be deployed, so they are training and waiting at military sites in Clackamas and Clatsop County.
Now to new developments in the murder of a Gresham 13-year-old. Police have arrested a third and final suspect.
Liam Spanley Bailey was killed in April when gunfire went through an apartment wall, striking him while he was sleeping. A 17-year-old is the latest suspect arrested. You'll hear his name here since prosecutors plan to try him as an adult. John Adams has more.
Gresham police tell us Coy was arrested at an apartment on Thursday in Southeast Portland. A judge has ruled he will stay behind bars for now. Nearly 7 months after the shooting death of a Gresham teen, the nationwide manhunt for his alleged killers has come to an end. On Thursday, local law enforcement announced the arrest of 17-year-old Terrell Coy. Coy, along with Anthony Hunter Jr. and Xavier Hirsch, are accused of killing 13-year-old Liam Spanley Bailey when gunfire from a neighboring unit hit the teen while he was sleeping in his dad's apartment. Hunter Jr. was arrested in September, Hirsch in mid-October. According to court documents, the suspects were involved in a robbery at that neighboring unit when the shooting happened. Hunter Jr. and Hirsch are facing charges of second-degree murder, first-degree robbery, and unlawful use of a weapon. Spanley Bailey's mother, Jessica, spoke with us after Hunter Jr.'s arrest.
The banner, that's his handwriting that I got off of his homework that he was working on before he passed away. We're finally on our way to getting some justice for Liam.
Multnomah County District Attorney Nathan Vasquez released a statement after Coy's arrest saying, "My office will do everything in our power to make sure everyone responsible for the death of Liam is held accountable. We will also prosecute anyone we can prove helped the suspects hide from police." The Multnomah County District Attorney's Office has filed a motion to charge Coy as an adult. In Northeast Portland, John Adams, KGW News.
In your headlines this evening, a Portland woman has been found guilty except for insanity in the murder of her brother, a Portland State basketball star. A judge sentenced 37-year-old Tamina Strickland to 22 years and ordered that she be placed in the care of the state psychiatric review board. That means she will be committed to the state hospital, but if at any point the review board finds she no longer needs that level of care, she will serve out the rest of her sentence in prison. Now, Strickland shot and killed 22-year-old Deontay Strickland in 2019.
The Oregon Health Authority is urging parents to stop using a brand of infant formula recalled over a possible botulism infection. The CDC now reports 2 cases in Oregon linked to By Heart formula products. Nationwide, there are 23 cases, up from the 15 reported on Tuesday. OHA says if your infant recently had this brand of formula, label it do not use, store it for at least a month, and also then monitor your baby for any symptoms.
Well, the CDC has also confirmed a person in Washington has been infected with avian flu. The state's health department says this is the first time that someone has this particular strain of the virus. Officials say they are a resident of Grays Harbor and an older adult with underlying health conditions. Health officials say they were likely infected by their home poultry flock or through wild birds that interacted with that flock. They do not believe there is any increased risk of avian flu to the broader public.
Local law enforcement partnered with the FBI to seize about 14 pounds of drugs. Officers served search warrants in Multnomah, Clackamas, and Clark counties. They found more than 3 pounds of meth, 6,000 Xanax pills, and thousands of dollars in cash. Police arrested 2 people and seized 2 guns.
And the co-founder of longtime downtown Portland restaurant Higgins has died. Paul Mallory was 71 years old and led the restaurant's front of house team for decades. Mallory's business partner, Chef Greg Higgins, posted that Mallory was the, quote, quiet force behind so much of what made Higgins what it is, end quote. Higgins says in the coming days it plans to share how they plan to honor Mallory. Matt?
All right, David, thank you very much. Boy, we're going to have a mainly dry weekend. Not the case in Southern California as another atmospheric river hits that area with a lot of precipitation for us. Yes, we have a little bit of light rain tonight, but nothing like this. Now, the atmospheric river has a scale, and the one coming this weekend is a Category 4, meaning mostly hazardous. There are some benefits to it, of course, when you get some rain, but when you get that much rain that fast for that long, it can be problematic with landslides and debris flows, hence the flood watch out for much of Southern California there. Now, as far as we're concerned, there are no watches and warnings here in the Northwest. The rainfall in SoCal will be quite heavy, but for us, just a few sprinkles tonight, and then it dries out, which is not great news for the Cascade snowpack. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on. We'll eventually get the snow, but we're going to have to wait just a bit. Have some patience. In the meantime, enjoy what will be largely a nice and dry weekend, guys.
Sounds great. Thank you, Matt. Tonight, the FAA says it is rolling back flight cuts from 6% of flights down to 3% as of tomorrow morning. The cuts were due to the government shutdown and an air traffic controller shortage. They've impacted 40 major airports over the last week, including PDX. According to FlightAware, 16 flights were canceled, with a couple dozen more delayed at PDX today. So far, 8 flights have been canceled tomorrow. New at 6, the government shutdown is over, but it may have come at a cost to a large Oregon industry.
Unintended consequences, right? Devin Haskins in the newsroom. Devin, we're talking about hemp here.
Yeah, guys, when the Senate voted on a deal to reopen the government this week, tucked inside the bill was a provision that would ban most THC and hemp products. The last-minute provision closed a loophole that allowed manufacturers to convert hemp into high-potency THC products through chemical processing. That loophole was opened when Congress passed the Farm Bill in 2018, which legalized hemp-derived products. New provision will cap hemp products at just 0.4 milligrams of THC per container, a fraction of what's in nearly all products on the market today. A letter signed by several attorney generals asked Congress to close that loophole that allowed for, quote, Frankenstein THC products that get adults high and harm and even kill children. Neither Oregon nor Washington attorneys general signed that letter. While those concerns stem from illicit gummies that appeal to kids, those in the industry say the law change would also affect the THC beverage industry, drinks that can have 5 or 10 milligrams of THC. The hemp industry is a $28 billion market, and Oregon is the largest floral hemp producer by acreage. Paul Murdoch, co-founder of Horn Creek Hemp in Southern Oregon, says the bill would make it impossible for his business to comply.
The plant, as it grows naturally, has a very, very small amount of THC. Most of it's been bred out of it, but it's there. What this legislation is asking us to do is eliminate all of it.
The bill had bipartisan support as well as bipartisan opposition. Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley opposed the bill, saying it would eliminate 95 to 99% of the industry. That ban takes effect next year. David?
Devin Haskins in the newsroom. Thanks, Devin. This week marks 3 years since the murders of 4 University of Idaho students, Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, with the man who admitted to killing them in Moscow now serving life in prison. Last night, U of I students gathered at the new Healing Garden on campus to remember their classmates.
Just felt this need to kind of pay tributes. Even though I didn't personally know him, it still affected this whole region of Idaho.
Chapin was from the Mount Vernon, Washington area. After his death, his family created a foundation called Ethan's Smile to honor his memory. He worked in the tulip fields in Skagit County, Washington, so the foundation sells bulbs as a way to remember him. This year, they sold out. All the proceeds go toward a scholarship fund in his name. Meantime, a judge has ordered the man who murdered them, Brian Kohberger, to pay money toward their burials. Prosecutors say Kohberger should reimburse the families of 2 of the victims roughly $3,000. As part of his plea agreement, Kohberger was already ordered to pay more than $30,000 in restitution. The judge said Kohberger can raise the money by getting a job, in prison, or by asking for donations.
3 years on. Well, tonight, a complicated legal fight could have real consequences for any Oregonian who might need a public defender.
That's after a judge struck down part of the state's new public defense contract. Jake Holter breaks down how the ruling could affect how quickly people accused of crimes get representation.
Public Defender of Marion County won its suit against the Oregon Public Defense Commission with a judge ruling that a provision in the state's new public defense contract is unconstitutional.
Because it means that they get to continue to provide client-centered representation.
Shannon Wilson is the executive director of Public Defender of Marion County. She says her firm couldn't sign the new contract the Oregon Public Defense Commission proposed and instead filed a complaint.
So it asked us to just ignore our current clients and to neglect their needs and just agree to just blindly take an additional, however many cases based on your qualification per month. I couldn't agree to that because that would essentially ask us to be negligent.
The lawsuit claimed the contract would function like a case quota system and could limit the constitutional rights of low-income defendants who rely on public defenders. For context, Governor Tina Kotek's new leader of the Public Defense Commission was tasked with fixing the state's shortage of public defenders and backlog of underrepresented defendants. The new plan allows attorneys who have the extra capacity to take on more cases than the current guidelines of 300 cases per year and seeks to enforce contract requirements with public defense firms more strictly. But Wilson and her attorneys argued the contract would pressure attorneys to accept more cases than they could ethically handle.
And what this became to us is the state forcing public defenders to make a choice. Either keep a job, put food on the table, or stand up for your ethical obligations.
Friday, the judge ruled that a contract provision, one that could penalize a public defense firm for exceeding its ethical caseload, violates the Oregon Constitution. The court voided and removed that provision.
The court fulfilled its essential responsibility to make sure that our criminal justice system, particularly as it applies to indigent defendants, is just, fair, ethical, and constitutional. It was a really good day for this state.
The state argued Wilson didn't have standing because her firm had not signed the contract, but the judge ruled in their favor. Wilson says they now plan to sign the new contract, and the Oregon Public Defense Commission declined to comment. Back to you.